Hey guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. So I want to show you how to wire up LED strip or WS2812B or what I'm calling Pixelcade Pulse devices to your Pixelcade board. So let me first show you how to wire this up, and then we'll set it up, and I'll show you how to set it up in the software. So first of all, you have to have a Pixelcade version 2 board for this to work. Version 2 board looks like this. If you have a black board like this, that's a version 1 board. You gotta upgrade to version 2. On your version 2 board, you will have, here's the same board here. Let me just give you a closer look. You'll have a custom connector. When you order your V2 board, be sure and specify this if you want to have this option. But this is just a custom connector. So on the board, just look for this blue connector. You're just going to pop this in like so. And then this is what connects to your LED strip chain. And so with WS2812B, basically the way it works, I'll just do the same thing here on our Pixelcade board, is it's all basically one daisy chained set of devices. So you'll start with this, you'll hook up your first device. You're definitely going to want to get some of the extender cables. These you can get on Amazon, they're relatively cheap. So you're just a matter of figuring out like how many devices you need for your arcade installation. So what I've done in the software is I've set it up to where you have 2 LED speaker rings. These will go on your speakers mounts. Then typically you'd have like 2 sets of LED strips, one on each side. This could go down your T-molding, for example. And then these are optional, but little effect matrices. And so these, I did a little custom mount design for these to where it'll basically mount flush. But I'll probably offer these for sale if that's something people are interested in. But for you do-it-yourselfers out there, you can also just get these guys. They're relatively inexpensive. Get these off Amazon. This is basically this mounted in here. And this is basically this mounted in here, right? This is a nice, like if you look at it, this has this what's called black LED, so you can't actually see the LEDs. It just looks like a black matte, but once we light it up, you'll see a nice diffused effect. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a sec. So the idea is you've got you've got these 2 effect matrices. You've got one, this can display text, this can play real-time scores for games. That's what this is for. This can also do some pretty cool effects, which I'll show you. And then you've got your 2 LED strips. So to wire them up, what I recommend is just get out some pencil and paper and then mark down, because you need to mark down the order that they're wired in, because that's how you'll set it up in the software. So what we'll do is I'll just kind of pick an order here. So let's go ahead and start. Let's take our extension here, just kind of pop this in. These only plug in one way, so you can't mess up. Make sure this is on camera here. And then we'll just plug in our first device. So let's make the first one this little 8x8 matrix. So again, just pop it in. If you look at the back of them, first of all, this tells you what way is up and what way is down. So you know when you mount it, you don't want to mount it upside down, which does matter if you're like scrolling text to it, because then the text would show up upside down. So that does matter. Let's go ahead and pop this in. And then we'll take another cable and wire up the other guy. And again, the order that you wire these, it just depends on your physical installation, right? So which ones you want to wire, what's going to mount where, that's all. So we'll just go ahead and do this guy. And then this is also important. It's actually really important. Is that with these devices, you need to supply external 5-volt power. If you put all these devices and try to run this off the Pixelcade board, and trust me, I've already tried it, technically it'll work, but it's going to get super hot because this board is having to power both the LED matrix and all these new LEDs from the WS2812B strip. It's just too much. So you need to insert or inject in a separate 5 volts. Very important. This is 5 volts versus the Pixelcade runs off 12 volts, so just be careful with that. 5 volts into your chain. And so what I did, if you look at these typical devices, all of them have basically a 5 volts in connector, right? And so it doesn't matter at what point in the chain you put the 5 volts, it just has to be somewhere. So in this case, I've actually just soldered little female jack here into the LED strip. And so we'll just plug our 5 volts that way. So here's I won't plug this in yet because I don't have it hooked up, but basically we're just going to go here and that will insert our 5 volts into the chain. Everybody's happy. Okay, so let's keep going. Actually, let's write down kind of what we've done so far. So we've got the first zone, which we'll call zone 0. That is an 8x8 matrix. And so that's basically 64 LEDs. Second one is the same. So we'll write that down. And then we'll just keep going. And so the third chain is this guy. This is 8x32. So let's go ahead and wire that up. Same thing, we'll just take our extension cable here. Okay. And this may look like kind of a spaghetti mess, but once you get this installed in your cab, it won't be too bad. And I'll show you what the cab looks like in another video. All right, so that's that. So let's write that down. So the next one is 8x32. I'll do the math later. Let's do the LED rings next. So those are 45 LEDs each, and then we'll do the strips last. 5 and 6, we'll do one strip that has 480, and we'll do one strip that has 144. And again, the order of this, again, is just depending on how you want to physically mount all your stuff. So let's do another LED ring here. Okay. This LED ring, again, we're going to mount in our speaker grill. So that'll give some, it's nice because you already have that space. And let's do, I think I'm running out of extender cables. So normally I'd put another extender cable, but just to show you, I'm going to skip that right now. Let's go here. Oops. Okay. And then let's do an extender cable from here to our first LED strip. And LED strips come in all shapes and sizes. This one's kind of cool because it's literally 480 LEDs. Plug that guy in. And this one's also kind of nice because it's diffused. They put some coating on there, so that kind of is a natural diffuser. And then lastly, let's see. Here's my reel. So we'll plug this in. This one is 144 LEDs. These ones are very closely spaced, as you can see, like that, versus other strips. There's a little bit more spacing like this one, right? So you can see the difference. So really, again, just depends on your install, what physical dimensions you have, and so on. So let's plug in our 5 volt power, and then let's go ahead and power up our Pixelcade board. Again, the Pixelcade board runs off 12 volts. Okay. Now, right when we power on, you'll see it, the LEDs will just flash briefly. Let me just show that again. See how it flashes? So that's how you know you have connectivity. But what I've also done is I've tried to make this really, really easy for you. And let me go over to the computer here. All right, so the software is running. You can see that logo show up on your Pixelcade. And then what's pretty cool is let's set up our zones. So I'm going to go over to the software. Yeah, let's start a little recording here. All right, so now let's get out the paper we had before just to refresh our memory how many devices we had set up and how many LEDs and such. And so you're going to go to Pixelcade Companion. Just look for that icon on your desktop. You can also, just as a shortcut, once you have Pixelcade running, just type in localhost :8080. That will take you there as well. And go over to Device Settings and Log. And then just scroll down a little bit and you'll see this new section for Pixelcade Pulse settings, WS2812B. And so go ahead and hit enable, go ahead and turn it on. You can control brightness. But right now we want to add the zones, because the way this works is we have all these devices here. We want to be able to control each device or zone separately. So that's what the software does for you. So let's go ahead and add the first zone. So you also want to pick, this is important because the Pixelcade software will use these names. So if you remember, the first device we had was the left matrix. And so that was a matrix and it was 8x8. So it's going to do the math for you. So just hit save. And so we'll do the next one. So that was the right matrix. And that was also a matrix of 8x8. And so again, you don't have to do the math on the pixels. It's going to do that for you. So let's keep going. This was the score matrix, and that was an 8x32. Great. Okay, the next one were the speaker rings. So let's do the left speaker ring first. And that's a strip. Actually, no, I have a drop down here. So pick LED ring 45. Let's do another one. This is the right speaker ring. Now, let's say you got a ring that doesn't have, it's not in this drop down. You could just pick strip and then just type in the number of LEDs too. That would also work. But I'm trying to make this more user friendly for you and pick popular supported ones. Okay. All right. Now this one was a strip. So we'll just say left strip. And this one had literally 480 LEDs. So we'll just type in 480. And then the last one was another strip. And then you notice as I use these, they won't show up in the drop down. So this is the last one, right strip, and this had 144. Okay. Now, this is really important. So once you've done that, you actually have to update the firmware, and that's what this little blue button does here at the top. Update total pixels 1098. The limit, by the way, is 2000, so that's the max number of LEDs you can have on it on chain. So go ahead and hit this. This is then going to reboot your board. So you do need to restart the Pixelcade software. So let me just do that real quick. Okay, we restarted our Pixelcade software. Let's do a refresh. Just make sure all of our zones are still showing up. Now here's what's pretty cool. Again, I'm trying to make life really easy for you guys. And so there's little test buttons. So if you hit test, then that's just going to simply turn on. It's just going to do all red, whatever zone you pick. So that zone, I know I'm good. Let's do a test on the second zone. I'm good. And then just keep going. Here's the third one. Here's the fourth one. Here we go. This should be the strip. And then this one is the last strip. So that's how you can tell like everything's cool. You've hooked everything the right way. You're just testing the zones. So then go ahead and just hit stop here. That'll turn everything off. And if you want to just play around, you can just go here, for example, let's say score matrix. Let's pick some matrix effects, actually 8x32 games. Let's pick, what's a good one? Tron's pretty cool. Where is that? There's Tron. And so let's show a little nice animation, right? And that the idea is when you pick the game from Pixelcade, you'll see all these cool animations go. If you want to see, let's hit stop. Want to see what something looks like on the effect matrices. Let's go here, matrix effects. Let's just pick one. And so you'll see all these kind of cool things like this. You can play around and just kind of see what's there. So lots of fun ones you can play with. And then of course we got the LED strip effects. So I picked the zone. Let's pick let's say left strip. let's just do basic, and let's just do Comet. Right, you can see a cool little animation play there. So again, this is how you can just kind of play around and just see. As you can see, we've got lots of effects. I spent a lot of time coding all those, so I hope you guys like them. What's also cool is this middle guy. If you get the larger matrix, that can scroll text as well as real-time scores. So if you want to see that, let's just say this is a test. And you can actually change the fonts as well. Let's just use the default font, but that's what the text will look like. And again, so this has this nice black LED diffuser. So if you were to look at this with just this, without the diffuser, just this guy, it would be pretty bright and kind of hard to make out the letters, to be quite honest. So I do recommend, like if you don't use our mounts, I do recommend you diffuse these ODs because they're just kind of hard to read. So that's that. It can also do real-time scores. So here's just an example of what a score may look like. Let's pick the score font, you know, something like that. For example, let me just show you a quick demo of how some of these things work. So I don't have it hooked up to my arcade cab, but I'll simulate that. So let's say that I'm, you know, in my front end, and I can send a command that I was going to launch a particular game. So let's say I'm going to launch Galaga. Okay, so you can see I've got Galaga on the marquee, and then now I'm just showing kind of things that are, this is like a little Galaga animation that we did on the LD strip. You've got something that's kind of specific to Galaga. That's the idea. Let's say I pick, let's see, what's another one? Tron. It's always pretty cool. So again, here's Tron. Got some animations, very, you know, very specific to the Tron theme. If I pick a game that doesn't have customized animations, it will go with the color scheme. So it'll randomly pick different effects, but for the most part, it will take the dominant color in the marquee, which in this case is yellow, and then all the other effects will be yellow for the most part. There's a few effects that have their own colors, but for the most part, let's see, 80% of them that will do that. And then if I load it again, you'll see different effects there. Let's see what else is pretty cool. Qbert, that's another custom one that we did. See a little snake here, that's supposed to be the coil. There's that. Let's see, there's Dig Dug. So another little animation there. So you get the idea. If you're scrolling through consoles, so let's see, for example, you scroll on NES. So got your NES marquee. It's going to show you the actual text, and then, you know, really cool animation, very specific to that game console. So again, thanks for tuning in. That's what we have. The next video, I'm going to get all this stuff and install it in my arcade and kind of show you how it all works end to end. Thanks for watching.